My name is Seraphina, and the night I stopped being a daughter in my parents' eyes, I was sitting in the very dining room where I had once celebrated birthdays and holidays. The chandelier still cast its warm light, the same one that had glowed over childhood dinners. But everything else had changed. My father's voice cut across the table, sharp and cold. "You're not worth a penny, Seraphina. Not a penny." My mother didn't flinch. She set down her fork, her lips pressed into a thin smile. "You've always been a disappointment. You wasted your time on books, on ideas, on foolish dreams. Look at your sister. She knows how to find a wealthy man and secure her future. What do you have? Nothing." Their words hit me harder than any slap. I stared at them across the polished mahogany table, the smell of roasted lamb heavy in the air, the clink of silverware filling the silence between insults. And then the final knife. My fiancé Marcus, sitting beside me, didn't defend me. He laughed softly, almost apologetically, and said, "They're not wrong, Seraphina. You don't bring much to the table." The floor might as well have collapsed beneath me. I had loved Marcus for 3 years. I had stood by him while he built his business, encouraged him when he faltered, supported him in silence. I believed we were partners. Yet in that moment he revealed the truth. He wasn't my partner. He was their ally. I gripped the edge of my chair, my nails digging into the wood. "You think I'm worth nothing?" I asked quietly. My father's smirk widened. "Less than nothing. You've been a burden. And when we're gone, everything we have will go to your sister. She deserves it. You'll be lucky if Marcus keeps you." Marcus placed his hand on mine, but it wasn't comfort. It was control. "Don't be dramatic. Just accept it. Your parents know best." Inside, something shattered and something else hardened. I had spent my life begging for their approval, thinking love was earned by obedience, by sacrifice, by patience. That night I understood the truth. In their eyes I would never be enough. But they were wrong about one thing. I wasn't worthless. For months I had been silent about the inheritance left to me by my grandmother, the only person who had ever believed in me. While my parents dismissed me, I had quietly invested. I had taken the inheritance they thought I wasted and turned it into something real. A $3 million house. Mine. In my name alone. I hadn't planned to reveal it so soon. But as I sat there, humiliated, betrayed by family and fiancé alike, I knew patience was no longer the path. I would show them the truth. Not with tears. Not with pleas. But with power. I excused myself from the table, my voice steady though my hands shook. "Thank you for dinner," I said calmly. As I walked out into the night, the cool air biting at my skin, I whispered to myself, "You will regret this. Every word. Every smirk. You'll see exactly what I'm worth." Because what they thought was the end of me was only the beginning. And soon the house they could never imagine, the house in my name, would become the stage for their downfall. The next morning, I woke to the sound of my phone buzzing on the nightstand. Marcus was already gone. He had left no note, no kiss, no trace of warmth. Just silence. The messages on my screen were from my sister Clara. She had sent photographs of herself at dinner the night before, smiling between our parents, holding up a glass of wine. The caption read, "The daughter they're proud of." I stared at the photo until my vision blurred. Clara had always known how to twist the knife. She was beautiful, charming, the kind of woman my parents loved to parade at events. I was the opposite, quiet, bookish, focused on things they dismissed as impractical. Where she drew admiration, I drew sighs. But last night had been worse. It hadn't just been favoritism. It had been exile. They had cast me out with their words, and Marcus had joined their chorus. By noon he returned. He walked into our apartment as if nothing had happened. "You left abruptly," he said casually, setting his briefcase on the counter. "My parents were worried," I replied flatly. He poured himself coffee, his tone dismissive. "Seraphina, you know they didn't mean it like that. They were being honest. You don't bring much to the table financially. They want the best for me, and for you if you'd accept it." The words cut again, not because of what he said, but because of how easily he said them. He had chosen his side, not mine. There. I felt my jaw tighten, my heart pounding. "So you agree with them? That I'm worth nothing?" He didn't even look at me. I think you need to be realistic. You've never had a career. You rely on me. On them. It's time you accepted your place. My place. I sat in silence, my hands gripping the edge of the table, my mind a storm. He didn't know. None of them knew. They believed me powerless, dependent, invisible. But in my drawer lay the documents of ownership, the deed to the house my grandmother had left me, the investments I had built from her gift, the wealth I had quietly guarded. Worth nothing? I was worth $3 million. And every cent was mine. That night I went to my grandmother's old journals, tucked away in a wooden box. She had always told me, strength is not loud. It waits, prepares, chooses its moment. I traced her handwriting with trembling fingers. She had believed in me when no one else did. She had given me the inheritance because she saw value where my parents never had. And now her gift would become my weapon. The betrayal was no longer only about cruel words at a dinner table. It was about Marcus standing beside them, Clara mocking me, my parents dismissing me as if I were a mistake. They wanted me small. They wanted me silent. But I had been silent long enough. I started gathering what I would need. The deed to the house. Bank statements. Investment reports. Proof not just of ownership but of independence. It wasn't enough to tell them I was valuable. I had to show them. In a way they couldn't deny, in front of people they respected, at a moment they least expected. Marcus came home late, humming as if life was perfect. He kissed my cheek, oblivious to the fire building inside me. Next week, he said lightly. My parents are hosting Clara's engagement party at the country club. You should come. Maybe if you dress up, smile, show some charm, they'll soften. I smiled back though my chest burned. Yes, I whispered. I'll be there. Inside I was already planning. Clara's engagement party would not be her triumph. It would be mine. Because when the lights shone on Clara that night, I would step into the glow with something none of them could ignore. A $3 million truth that would shatter their pride forever. The days leading up to Clara's engagement party felt like the calm before a storm. Marcus moved through our apartment with the casual arrogance of a man who believed he had one. He smiled when he left in the mornings, humming as if life were perfect. He kissed my cheek at night, unaware that my silence no longer meant surrender. Behind closed doors I was preparing. I pulled out the lockbox from the back of my closet. Inside were the documents my grandmother had left me. The deed to the house, bank records, investment statements, letters she had written in her careful handwriting. I spread them across my desk, my fingers shaking not from fear but from a rising strength I hadn't felt in years. The house was worth over $3 million. Paid in full. In my name alone. Every penny had been mine from the beginning. My grandmother had known exactly what she was doing. She left me something untouchable, something my parents couldn't strip away, something that Marcus couldn't touch no matter how entitled he acted. But it wasn't enough to own it. I needed to make it undeniable. So I began documenting. I made copies of every page, scanning them into encrypted files on a hidden drive. I placed physical copies into a binder labeled innocuously taxes. Then I created duplicates and hid them in Julia's apartment, my closest friend since childhood, the one person I knew I could trust. Julia was shocked when I showed her. $3 million? Seraphina, they called you worthless while you were sitting on this? I nodded, my lips tight. They don't see me because they never wanted to. That's their mistake. Her eyes blazed. Then make them see. Her certainty steadied me. Next, I hired a quiet appraiser. I told him I wanted to verify the current value of the property for insurance purposes. He confirmed what I already knew, $3 million, perhaps more given the market. His official report became another piece of ammunition. Another undeniable truth. Meanwhile, Marcus kept revealing himself without realizing it. He spent more time with Clara's fiancé, boasting about the family he was marrying into, about how he would be part of real wealth. He didn't know that I was listening, memorizing every careless word. One evening, I slipped into his study after he went to bed. On his desk were notes for a new business venture, plans to ask my parents for funding, with Clara and her fiancé listed as partners. My name wasn't there. Not once. That was my confirmation. Marcus didn't see me as his future. He saw me as baggage. Disposable. Replaceable. And yet, he still thought he had control. The final step was presentation. Evelyn, the lawyer Julia introduced me to, reviewed my binder. She turned page after page, her sharp eyes catching every signature, every seal. "This is ironclad," she said finally. "No court, no parent, no fiancé could deny this. The key is timing. You want impact, not just legality." Her words resonated. Impact. I didn't just want my parents to know. I wanted them to feel the weight of every insult, every word that had called me worthless. And I wanted Marcus to realize, in front of them all, that the woman he dismissed was stronger than the family he tried to impress. So we designed the plan. At Clara's engagement party, when the speeches flowed and the cameras flashed, I would reveal the house. Not angrily. Not defensively. Calmly, with proof in hand. The truth would speak louder than my pain ever could. But even as I prepared, shadows lingered. Clara called me one afternoon, her voice syrupy with mockery. "Don't embarrass yourself at my party, Seraphina. Just smile, clap, and try not to look so small. That way people might forget you're still the family failure." I hung up without a word. My silence made her laugh. But she had no idea what I was planning. Each insult, each dismissal, each laugh became fuel. I wasn't gathering evidence to defend myself. I was gathering weapons to expose them. And when the night came, they would all see me not as the daughter who failed, but as the woman who held more power than they ever imagined. Because while they planned Clara's engagement party as her grand triumph, I was planning to turn it into my reckoning. And once the truth was revealed, none of them would leave that night unchanged. I could not do this alone. Evidence was power. But power without support is fragile. I needed people who could make the papers sing. People who could turn proof into action. People who would stand with me when the lights burned bright. Julia was first. She had been my friend since college. She knew my silence and my stubborn. I went to her that night with the binder and the scanned files. Her apartment smelled of coffee and old books. She read everything without speaking. When she finally looked up, her eyes were hard. "You kept this from them?" she asked. "I did," I said. "They thought I was nothing. They thought I could be stepped on." Julia slammed the binder shut and hugged me. "Then we will not whisper. We will shout with facts." Next was Evelyn. I had found her through a trusted referral. She was a lawyer with no tolerance for charm that hid theft. Her office was small and efficient. She did not waste words. She read my documents. She tapped the deed with a pen. "This is clear ownership," she said. "Deed, insurance, appraisal, all in your name. The only risk is presentation. If you reveal it wrong, they will call you spoiled or delusional." "I do not want a fight," I said. "I want them to feel what I felt." Evelyn smiled once. "Then we will plan a demonstration of truth. Clean, unassailable, public enough that their friends cannot pretend ignorance." We added 2 more allies. One I needed for logistics. The other I needed for optics. Marcus's family moved in networks. They fed on image. I hired a discreet public relations consultant. Her name was Laura. She had handled sensitive disclosures before. Small firms. Quiet settlements. She agreed to draft a short statement in case the press smelled a story. She also set a protocol for cameras. If the reveal hit the press, we would control the frame. We would not let them spin the narrative toward my anger. We would make it about facts and dignity. The final ally was practical. I reserved a reputable notary and a local appraiser as backup. The appraiser had already verified the house value. The notary agreed to be on call during the party. If I needed to prove chain of title in front of witnesses, she would sign an affidavit on the spot. Paper with a stamp. That mattered. Judges and donors respect stamps. We rehearsed the plan like actors. Evelyn drew a timeline on a whiteboard. "Arrival," she said. "Short remarks. Delivery of documents to key guests. A calm statement if asked. Exit." She circled names. "We will give copies to the venue manager, a trusted reporter, and the notary. We will not make it a scene. We will make it evidence." Julia practiced my lines with me. Short, even, precise. "I inherited property from my grandmother," I would say. "It is mine. I have the deed. I have the appraisal. I will not be told I am worthless in my own family." No theatrics. No pleading. No vindictiveness. Just truth. We rehearsed exits and entrances. Laura scheduled the press protocol. Evelyn prepared the legal language. The notary confirmed availability. Everything fit like clockwork. The party, Clara's engagement, was to be the perfect stage. Many would be there. Friends. Donors. The very crowd who applauded status. That crowd could not pretend ignorance when handed papers. Still, the plan required silence. Marcus must not suspect. My parents must not be tipped. I could not risk one careless text, one spilled rumor. Control meant secrecy. I kept the key documents in a locked safe at Julia's place. Only 3 people had access: Julia, Evelyn, and me. On the morning of the party, we ran through the plan one last time. I dressed simply. I wanted to be seen but not staged. We met near the venue an hour before guests arrived. Evelyn handed me a slim envelope with certified copies. Laura confirmed the press hold. The notary sent a text. She had the stamp. I felt ready. Strong. Calm. The sting of their words felt duller. I had armor now. Documents. Witnesses. Strategy. Then my phone buzzed. An unknown number. I almost ignored it. But curiosity got the better of me. I answered. A voice low and measured. "We have heard about the house," it said. "You should be careful about how you reveal it." Before I could reply, the line clicked dead. My hand went cold. The plan was perfect. We had covered legal risks. We had rehearsed media. We had secured witnesses. But the voice had been a warning. Not a threat. A warning. Someone else knew. Someone watching. I looked at Julia. Her face had paled. Evelyn's eyes were tight. Laura's jaw clenched. The notary's text went unread in my phone. In the crowd that night sat people whose pockets were deeper than pride. If they feared exposure, they could move in silence. And if they moved, the reveal might become a dangerous provocation. One that could cost everything. The warning voice lingered in my head like smoke. "We have heard about the house. Be careful." It made me want to retreat, but Evelyn would not allow that. "We do not step back," she said firmly as we sat around her office table. The binder lay open between us, documents spread like weapons. "We adapt. Whoever called you is trying to shake your resolve. Fear is their tool. Timing and preparation are ours." Julia nodded, her jaw tight. "We've come too far to stop now. So we built the counterplan. Step 1. Secure every piece of evidence in multiple locations." Evelyn had already duplicated the deed, appraisal, and bank records. She added them to her firm's secure archive. Julia kept one binder in her apartment safe. I carried only certified copies in a slim envelope. Nothing original. Even if someone tried to intercept me, they would gain nothing of real value. Step 2. Control the reveal. Evelyn mapped the sequence with the precision of a military strategy. "You will not start with drama," she instructed. "You will stand calm. When the insults come, and you will let them finish. Only then will you place the envelope on the table. Quiet. Measured. That silence will pierce deeper than shouting ever could." Julia rehearsed with me every night. She hurled the cruel words my parents had used: worthless, failure, burden. My hands shook at first. But by the 5th rehearsal, I no longer flinched. I smiled faintly, opened the envelope, and slid the proof across the table. No rage. Only certainty. Step 3. Select the audience. The engagement party would be full of people whose opinions mattered deeply to my parents. Extended family, donors, business acquaintances, wealthy neighbors. Evelyn wanted maximum witnesses. "They will not be able to rewrite the story," she said. "Too many eyes will see it at once." Step 4. Secure a secondary outlet. Laura, the PR consultant, arranged for a trusted reporter to be accidentally present. Not paparazzi. Someone credible. Someone who would frame the story as empowerment, not scandal. She also drafted a short written statement in my name, calm and dignified, to be distributed only if needed. "I am proud of what my grandmother entrusted to me. I will not let anyone tell me I am worthless when the truth proves otherwise." Step 5. Anticipate retaliation. Marcus would not take kindly to being exposed as a fiancé who sided with the wrong people. My parents would try to spin my inheritance as luck, or claim it belonged to the family. Evelyn prepared responses. Every sentence should end with one fact, she said. It is mine. It is in my name. It is documented. The plan grew detailed, almost ritualistic. Julia timed how long I should wait after their insults. Evelyn measured the phrasing of my reveal. Laura calculated optics, how the envelope should be handed, how my posture should look for cameras. Even the notary had her role. She would step forward if anyone questioned the legality and affirm with her seal. By the third night of planning, I felt the fear in my chest begin to shift. It no longer paralyzed me. Focused me. Marcus still floated through our apartment, oblivious. He kissed my cheek one evening, grinning. Clara's party will be beautiful, he said. You'll see what a real family celebration looks like. I smiled back, hiding the storm beneath. Yes, I whispered. I'll see. But in truth he would see. All of them would. 2 nights before the party, Evelyn called us for one final rehearsal. We met in her office again, the city glowing dark outside the windows. She had arranged chairs as if we were already at the country club. Julia played my mother, sneering. Evelyn played my father, cold and dismissive. Even Laura joined in, pretending to be Marcus, laughing in my face. I sat quietly through their barrage. The words stung even in practice. But when the time came, I drew out the envelope, laid it calmly on the table, and said the words we had rehearsed. This is mine. My grandmother left it to me. It is worth $3 million. Tell me again that I am worthless. The silence afterward was thick. Even in rehearsal, the power of it was undeniable. Evelyn leaned back, satisfied. That is how you break them. I went home that night both steadied and restless. The plan was ironclad. The timing perfect. The reveal inevitable. And yet, the warning voice still whispered in the back of my mind. Be careful. What if someone tried to stop me before I could speak? What if Marcus, sensing something, intercepted the envelope? What if my parents twisted the story anyway? I locked the envelope in my bag and placed it beside my bed. I slept with the lamp on, because as much as I trusted our plan, I couldn't ignore the truth. People with pride will do anything to protect it. And when the night of the party arrived, I suspected my family might fight dirtier than I ever imagined. The night of Clara's engagement party arrived draped in glitter and expectation. The country club glowed with chandeliers, polished marble floors, and the sharp laughter of people who had never known hunger or humility. Cars lined the driveway like jewels on display. Every detail screamed wealth, status, perfection. I stood in front of the mirror before leaving, the envelope in my clutch. My dress was simple black silk, understated, the kind of elegance my mother had always told me I could never pull off. Tonight, that simplicity would be my weapon. Julia clasped the zipper for me, her hand steady. You are ready, she said. But as the driver pulled up to the club, the unease inside me sharpened. The warning call still echoed in my head. Be careful. We walked into a ballroom buzzing with voices. Clara glittered in a sequined gown, a diamond on her finger large enough to catch the chandelier's light. My parents stood beside her, radiant with pride, greeting guests as if they were royalty. And then there was Marcus, tall and polished, his hand resting lightly on Clara's fiancé's shoulder, laughing too easily. He saw me, and for a moment his smile faltered. Then it returned, smooth and practiced. He walked toward me, kissed my cheek and whispered, "Try not to embarrass us tonight." I smiled faintly, though my hand tightened on the clutch. The speeches began. Toasts for Clara and her perfect future. Guests applauded, glasses clinked. My parents looked at me once, their eyes cold, their smiles sharp. I could feel the moment approaching. Their words, their dismissal, the opening I needed for the reveal. But then the pivot. When dessert was served, Marcus rose suddenly. He cleared his throat, tapping his glass with a spoon. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice smooth, "I want to say something about my fiancé." My blood ran cold. My fiancé. He wasn't talking about me. He gestured toward Clara. The room fell silent. I stared, my pulse pounding. "What are you doing?" I whispered under my breath. Marcus smiled, his eyes on the crowd, not me. "Clara is everything I could ever want. Beautiful, brilliant, strong. And tonight, while we celebrate her engagement to David," he glanced at Clara's fiancé, smirking, "I want to announce that when the time comes, I will invest in their future. My business, my loyalty, My name will always stand with this family. Applause erupted. My parents beamed. Clara glowed. And me? I sat frozen, humiliated again, erased in real time. Julia's hand gripped mine under the table. He's cutting you out, she whispered fiercely. It hit me all at once. Marcus had never intended to build a life with me. He had been using me as a placeholder, a bridge to my parents' approval. Now he was discarding me publicly, aligning himself with Clara and her fiancé. The plan in my clutch suddenly felt fragile. This wasn't just about revealing the house anymore. It was about survival. If Marcus and my parents painted me as bitter, jealous, and desperate, my truth might be twisted before I could even speak it. Evelyn's voice echoed in my memory. Timing is everything. Wait until they wound you. Then strike. I waited. My father rose to speak, his hand on Clara's shoulder. We always said we had one perfect daughter, he declared. Tonight we see her future shining bright. Clara, you are our pride. Our joy. Everything Seraphina never was. Gasps rippled through the crowd. My mother laughed softly, cruelly. Marcus clapped along. Clara smirked at me, victorious. The knife had landed. The wound was open. I reached for my clutch, my hand trembling. But before I could rise, the lights flickered. The microphone cut out with a squeal. A murmur spread through the room. Then across the ballroom the doors opened. A man in a dark suit entered, carrying a small envelope. He walked straight toward my parents' table and placed it down. My father frowned, opening it quickly. His face blanched. My mother's smile faltered. Clara leaned over, whispering sharply. Marcus craned his neck to see. I froze. That envelope wasn't mine. Julia leaned close, her voice a whisper. Seraphina. Someone else just moved first. Because in the very moment I prepared to reveal my $3 million truth, another secret had entered the room. And it was aimed directly at my family. The ballroom's golden light seemed colder after the stranger's envelope appeared. My father's hand trembled as he held the papers. My mother leaned in, her face pale, her smile cracking. Clara's fiancé whispered urgently into Marcus's ear, but Marcus's eyes stayed locked on the envelope, hungry, calculating. A murmur spread through the guests. The silence that followed felt heavier than applause. Something had shifted in the room. Julia touched my wrist beneath the table. This could derail everything. Don't freeze. Wait for the right moment. I forced my breath steady. The stranger in the dark suit had already vanished. Whoever sent him had planned this disruption with precision. My father tried to compose himself, standing quickly. A private matter, he stammered, sliding the papers into his pocket. Nothing to worry about. Please enjoy the evening. But the crowd wasn't convinced. Guests exchanged uneasy glances, their whispers echoing under the chandeliers. And then, as if to regain control, my mother's voice cut through the room. We thank you all for joining us. Tonight we celebrate Clara, our shining star. Unlike her sister, she has made us proud in every way. Her eyes found me across the room, cold and sharp. Seraphina has always been different. A dreamer. A burden. Not worth a penny. The words echoed, louder than the clinking glasses or rustling silk. Cruel, deliberate, sharpened for maximum sting. My pulse steadied. This was it. The wound. The moment Evelyn had told me to wait for. I rose slowly, my chair sliding back across the marble. The room turned toward me, curiosity flashing across jeweled faces. I held my clutch in one hand, the envelope inside pressing against my palm like a heartbeat. I walked to the center of the room, each step echoing in the silence. When I reached the table where my parents sat, I set my clutch down carefully. My voice was calm, measured. Not worth a penny. I repeated. My father sneered. Sit down, Seraphina. Don't make a fool of yourself. Instead, I opened the clutch and drew out my envelope. Slim, precise, sealed with certainty. I laid it on the table beside the one that had unsettled them minutes before. This, I said, sliding it forward, is mine. The deed to a house valued at over $3 million. Left to me by grandmother. In my name. Paid in full. Every appraisal, every stamp, every proof undeniable. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Guests leaned closer, their curiosity ignited. My mother's face drained of color. Clara blinked rapidly, as though trying to process what she had just heard. Marcus's jaw clenched, his mask cracking. I continued, my tone steady. For years you told me I was worthless, that I had nothing, that I was a burden. Tonight I prove you wrong. I am not worthless. I am not a failure. I am a woman with more than you ever imagined, and I will not sit in silence while you erase me. The notary Evelyn had arranged stepped forward from the crowd. She opened the envelope, examined the documents, and nodded firmly. This is legitimate. The property is valued at over $3 million. Ownership belongs solely to Seraphina. The ballroom erupted. Guests whispered furiously, some applauding softly, others glaring at my parents with thinly veiled judgment. A reporter scribbled notes. Phones lifted, snapping photos. The spectacle was unavoidable. Clara's fiancé looked at Marcus, his expression sour. You said she had nothing, he hissed. Marcus's face twisted. He lunged toward me, his voice raised. You hid this? From me? From us? You deceitful. I cut him off with a single glance. I owed you nothing. You chose their side. You mocked me when I stayed silent. That silence was not weakness. It was patience. The weight of the words hung in the air. My parents, red-faced, looked around the room and saw not admiration but condemnation. The people they wanted to impress were watching them crumble. But then, as the noise swelled, my father pulled out the other envelope, the one the stranger had delivered. His hands shook. He slammed it on the table, his voice hoarse. This is lies. All lies. The crowd quieted. Julia leaned close to me, whispering, Seraphina, whatever's in there, it's not about you. But it's about them. Because as my truth lit the ballroom with fire, another truth waited inside that mysterious envelope, one that might scorch my parents even deeper than my revenge ever could. The ballroom was no longer a place of celebration. It had become an arena. On one side of the table lay my envelope, the deed to my $3 million house. On the other lay the stranger's envelope, its contents still hidden, but heavy enough to pale my father's face and silence my mother's tongue. The guests smelled blood. Wealthy neighbors leaned in, eyes glittering with curiosity. Donors whispered furiously, already calculating whether staying aligned with my parents would cost them. Phones glowed in every direction, cameras recording, texts flying out into the night. Clara stood frozen beside her fiancé, her hands clenched in the folds of her sequined gown. She looked less like the golden daughter and more like a cornered animal. Marcus hovered close, his jaw tight, sweat beading at his temples. He had gambled everything on their approval, and suddenly the ground beneath him was shaking. My father tried to seize control. He straightened his tie, his voice cracking but loud. This is nonsense. Seraphina is parading a piece of paper to humiliate us. And this, he slammed the second envelope against the table, is slander. Nothing more. But the crowd didn't believe him. Evelyn stepped forward, her calm presence slicing through the noise. The deed is real, she said evenly. And whatever is in that envelope, it rattled you enough to drop the mask. If you want dignity, Mr. Hale, open it. My mother hissed at her, stay out of this. But Evelyn didn't flinch. The pressure grew unbearable. My father tore open the stranger's envelope, his hands shaking. Pages spilled across the table, bank statements, transfers, signatures. A hush fell over the room as the nearest guests leaned forward to read. Gasps rippled. One woman clutched her pearls. A man muttered, offshore accounts, untaxed funds. The truth was out. My parents hadn't only dismissed me, they had hidden money. Dirty money. Clara's fiancé stepped back as though burned. You told me your fortune was clean, he snapped. You promised everything was above board. His face reddened as he realized the crowd was watching him too. My mother's lips trembled. She tried to speak, but the words failed. My father roared instead. These are forgeries. Lies. Someone is trying to destroy us. Marcus, desperate to salvage something, grabbed my arm. Seraphina, help them. You're making this worse. Show loyalty now, and we can still have a future. I turned slowly, meeting his eyes. A future with you ended the moment you laughed at me. Do you think I'll stand beside liars and thieves? No. My future is mine alone. The crowd erupted again, voices overlapping, questions flying. Is the engagement still on? Did Clara know? How long has this gone on? Clara burst into tears, her carefully painted mask crumbling. Her fiancé shook his head, his voice cold. This marriage is off. I won't tie my name to scandal. He walked out, leaving her sobbing in the middle of the floor. Guests followed, some in disgust, others in pity. What had begun as Clara's triumphant evening now lay in ruins. My parents sat rigid, trapped under the weight of judgment. The second envelope had detonated their reputation. My revelation had ensured no one could dismiss me again. Their empire of pride collapsed in front of the very people they sought to impress. Evelyn touched my shoulder, her voice low. It's done. You've won. But my phone buzzed again in my clutch. A message glowed on the screen. Truth has many layers. You revealed one. Tonight you saw another. Be careful, there are more to come. I slipped the phone back into my bag, my pulse hammering. The ballroom was chaos, but one thought cut through it all. This wasn't just about family betrayal anymore. Someone else was moving pieces on the board. Because while my parents drowned in disgrace, I realized I had stepped into something larger. And the storm of secrets was only beginning to break. The morning after the engagement party, I woke to a city buzzing with whispers. Headlines screamed from every screen. Golden family's fortune exposed as offshore web. Clara's engagement crumbles amid scandal. Daughter once called worthless holds $3 million estate. It was surreal to see my name in bold print. My face and photograph snapped when I stood with the envelope in hand. For years I had been invisible, ignored even at family dinners. Now strangers on the street were repeating my story. Julia brought coffee and pastries to my apartment. She scrolled through her phone, reading comments aloud. Some call you an inspiration. Others are shocked. And look, people are digging deeper. Reporters are camped outside your parents' house. Neighbors are talking. Clara hasn't left her room. I sipped my coffee, trying to ground myself. And Marcus? Julia smirked bitterly. He's vanished. Last night he stormed out of the club after shouting at Clara. This morning someone leaked emails showing he tried to pitch himself as a partner to your parents' fortune. He looks pathetic. No investor will touch him now. Her words should have satisfied me. In a way they did. Marcus had gambled his loyalty and lost everything. My parents, who had gloated over Clara's perfection, now faced investigators at their door. Clara's glittering fiancé had abandoned her before the music stopped. And me? I was standing taller than ever. But victory felt strange. It wasn't sweet. It was sharp-edged with unease. Because my phone buzzed again. Another anonymous message just like the ones before. You showed the house. They showed the accounts. But there is still more beneath. Be careful what you uncover next. I stared at the words until the letters blurred. Who was sending them? The stranger in the dark suit? Someone tied to the offshore accounts? Or someone who feared exposure from yet another layer of secrets? Evelyn joined us later that afternoon. She set her briefcase on the table and spoke with her usual calm. The state will investigate your parents. Financial crimes. Tax evasion. They may face charges. You will be left untouched. Your documents are clean. You are safe. Safe. The word rang hollow. My parents' empire was collapsing. But the warning messages made me feel as though I had stepped into a wider battlefield. Julia squeezed my hand. Don't let fear steal this from you. Last night you proved them wrong. The whole city knows it now. You're no longer invisible. You're undeniable. I wanted to believe her. And part of me did. Yet deep inside I knew the story wasn't finished. My parents' disgrace was only one chapter. The stranger's envelope had revealed corruption far deeper than family cruelty. Someone out there had chosen that night, that ballroom, to strike. And they had used my revenge as their stage. By evening, the news cycle had devoured every detail. Reporters stood outside the country club replaying shaky phone footage of me placing the envelope on the table. Commentators debated whether I had timed it with the offshore revelations. Some called me a heroine of truth. Others speculated I was part of a bigger plot. I sat by the window watching the city lights flicker, my phone heavy in my hand. Messages from strangers poured in: support, admiration, curiosity. but mixed among them were more warnings. The house won't protect you. You expose their secrets. Do you know who else's secrets you hold? My heart pounded as I locked my phone and pressed it to my chest. My parents were ruined. Clara was abandoned. Marcus was disgraced. But I had awakened something larger. Something watching me from the shadows. Because as the city celebrated my revenge, I realized the next battle might not be about proving my worth. It might be about protecting my life. Weeks passed after Clara's shattered engagement party, but the echoes of that night did not fade. My parents' name, once gilded and untouchable, became synonymous with scandal. Investigators combed through their accounts. Headlines dissected every rumor, every transaction. Their faces no longer appeared in glossy magazines or charity boards. They stayed inside, blinds drawn, a fortress collapsing from within. Clara moved in silence too. Her fiancé's family cut ties immediately. Invitations stopped arriving. The glittering future she had flaunted turned to dust, and her envy of me curdled into silence. For the first time she had no stage. And Marcus? His downfall was almost pitiful. Investors pulled out of his ventures. Partners stopped taking his calls. He had staked his future on a family empire already built on sand. When it fell, he fell with it. The last I heard, he had left the city, desperate to outrun his own humiliation. As for me, my life did not become simple, but it became clear. The house my grandmother left me stood tall, solid, unshaken. It was more than walls and windows. It was a monument to the truth she had always whispered. Strength is not in their approval. It is in your resolve. I walked through its halls at night and felt her presence. She had trusted me with her legacy, and I had finally proven worthy of it. Not because I revealed the house, but because I found my voice. The anonymous messages still came sometimes, faint warnings from shadows I didn't yet understand. They reminded me that truth always has layers, and exposing one lie often reveals others. But instead of fear, I now carried vigilance. I had faced betrayal from the people closest to me and survived. Whatever else lay ahead, I would meet it standing. The lesson carved into me was simple. Betrayal does not define you. Silence does not mean weakness. It can mean preparation. And when the time is right, truth is sharper than any insult, stronger than any dismissal. My name is Seraphina. My parents once told me I wasn't worth a penny. My fiancé laughed at my silence. They called me a failure, a burden, a shadow. But I proved them wrong. I showed them a house worth $3 million in my name, untouchable. I showed them dignity wrapped in documents they could not deny. I showed them that the woman they tried to erase could not be erased. And I want you listening to my story now to remember this. If someone tells you that you are worthless, it is not truth. It is projection. You carry worth they cannot see. You carry strength they cannot measure. And one day when you choose, you can reveal it in a way they will never forget. Betrayal may wound you, but your response can transform the wound into power. So don't surrender. Don't believe the voices that call you nothing. Gather your proof, build your allies, wait with patience. And when the time comes, let your truth speak louder than their pride. Because dignity is not given. It is claimed. And once you claim it, no one, not parents, not partners, not betrayers of any kind, can take it away.